Thank you very much for having me. The Africa Think Tank Summit is the annual flagship event of the African Capacity Building Foundation. As you may know, the mission of the foundation is to build human skills and competencies, to build the capacity, institutional capacity of organizations, and also to generate knowledge and disseminate it to inform ev- evidence-based policy making, evidence-based development program formulation, but also capacities for execution. So over a period of 15 years, ACBF supported the creation of 35 think tanks to support, provide insights that support policy formulation in our member countries. Today, the network of African think tanks have grown to over 60 think tanks across all the continent. So the Think Tank Summit is the platform that brings all these think tanks together to do three things. Think tanks can use this platform to connect with policymakers, ministries of economy and planning, leaders of the private sector, leaders of the civil society, etc. Everyone actually who uses the results of research. And why it is important to meet on this platform is for them actually to exchange about the critical questions that these policymakers, private sector, civil society are wrestling with. This has the advantage of making the work of the think tanks demand driven. Not that you develop a research and try to convince someone to embrace it and take it, but you are responding to the questions that these policymakers, these practitioners are wrestling with. Number two, it is to bring the think tanks together so that they can exchange experience, avoid duplications. Why would a research that has been done in Kenya, redone in Nigeria from scratch? This helps actually share that information, share best practices. And third, it allows also for think tanks to come together and partner on cross-border research, because many of the pressing issues facing the continent are not specific to one country. They are cross-cutting across regions, across the continent. So for that as well, it is extremely important that think tanks come together to actually develop that. And last, it allows also for think tanks to exchange strategies for their funding, for how they build their sustainability, retain talent, etc.
Yeah, because it's bringing me to the theme of this year now, talking about that evidence-based solutions for sustainable climate financing. And I'd like you to speak to why the bank is looking at this thing here, because and the significance and how timely this is for Africa.
Yes, you know, African countries are disproportionately affected by the effects of climate change. We witness every year either droughts in certain regions, which poses a key question around food sovereignty, food security even. And also we face floods, particularly in cities. You know that urbanization is growing. Most of our populations are living in cities today. And floods and all of that, they disrupt actually the social fabric of our society. It creates problems. And so many coastal erosion, etc. This is to name a few. To address these challenges, African countries need to have the information, the research that allows them to develop these strategies. But once they have these programs, it's about accessing to resources. And most of them may not have awareness of the different innovative financing mechanisms that are available to them. And as a result of that, we know that the resources mobilized for climate adaptation and climate transition are not enough compared to the needs. But that what is already available is not fully utilized. And African countries access the least those resources. So this is why it is important to help them understand and master these new financing mechanism and also build their capacity for project preparation, particularly bankable project preparation to boost financing that can help actually really go through the journey. Yes.
So let's get to another very important part of what I would like to discuss with you here, because I've monitored your work over the years, the work of ACBF over the years, at least for almost over a decade now, looking at what the ACBF has been up to. But I see that now that you're changing your business model, and I'm trying to imagine what has informed that and what we'll likely see that playing out to be.
Yes, this is extremely important because ACBF is a Pan-African institution. It's a unique African institution, an instrument that is crucial. ACBF has mostly, over time, relied on financing from international development partners, but also African countries. Though we appreciate that, but we believe that it is important for African institutions to transform and become sustainable and increase their capacity to provide high value-added services to member countries. This is why we have reviewed our business model to develop high-value services such as the Ubora Academy, such as the Institutional Capacity Accelerator, such as the Knowledge Hub, actually, that can provide these services to our member countries, to private sector, to individuals, and at the same time, raising resources that the institution can invest in expanding its offer. So this is what the business model is, so that we don't depend on other resources only to formulate and develop the services that our countries need.
Let's come back to the theme of this year's summit here, the think tank summit here. And I would like to look at one of the key areas of focus that's going to play out here, which is that of the carbon markets.
Yes.
And I'd like you to speak to the ACBF's thinking around the carbon markets and where we would like to see that, the kind of growth you'd like to see in that space play out in Africa.
Yeah. You know, carbon markets, we were just talking, the theme of the summit is about innovative financing mechanism, and we believe that carbon market is one of them. Africa has a huge potential for carbon credits. We have some of the biggest forests, untouched forests, but also more and more is developing green economy with products that are climate compliant. And all of that can fuel actually the acquisition of carbon credits by our member countries. But today, most countries are not aware or do not understand how to leverage the carbon market. Second, today the prices of what you get from carbon markets, when prices are 100 in the north, African countries get a fraction of that 100 for the same value. So this is a huge lost opportunity. And this is why it is important that this platform helps African countries, African private sector, governments and others to embrace and understand, develop their knowledge about carbon markets and the opportunities, and are able to effectively utilize it and get the fair share of that market to fund actually adaptation and transition.